The sleek exploration vessel Defiant drifted at the edge of the Sol system, facing 5 enormous alien ships. Captain Adam Collins stood on the bridge, his weathered face illuminated by the glow of screens. This was humanity's first official contact with the Galactic Confederation, and he felt the weight of that responsibility on his shoulders. "They're hailing us again, sir," said Communications Officer Laura Bennett, her fingers hovering over her console. "Put them through," Collins ordered, straightening his uniform. The main screen flickered to life, revealing a tall, blue-skinned being with 4 arms and piercing silver eyes. "Human vessel, this is Ambassador Zorthal of the Galactic Confederation. We acknowledge your response and request permission to send a delegation to your ship." Collins nodded. "Permission granted, Ambassador. We welcome the opportunity for peaceful exchange." The alien's expression was difficult to read, but Collins thought he detected a hint of amusement. "Excellent. We shall arrive shortly to discuss your civilization's potential membership." When the transmission ended, Lieutenant Emma Watson, the ship's tactical officer, approached Collins. "Sir, did you notice their tone? They seemed almost condescending." "I noticed," Collins replied quietly. "Let's reserve judgment until we meet them face to face." An hour later, 5 Confederation representatives stood in the Defiance conference room. Ambassador Zorthal towered over the humans, flanked by his entourage of various alien species. Their ornate uniforms made the human standard-issue gear look plain by comparison. "We must admit," Zorthal began, gesturing around the room, "your vessel is more advanced than we expected based on our preliminary scans of your system." Collins smiled diplomatically. "Thank you, Ambassador. The Defiant represents the best of our space exploration technology." One of the other aliens, a reptilian being with scales that shifted color as he moved, leaned toward Zorthal and spoke in what he clearly thought was a whisper. "They believe this is advanced. How charming." Emma Watson stiffened beside Collins, but he placed a calming hand on her arm. Zorthal cleared his throat. "We have observed your tiny fleet of vessels. How many ships does Earth possess that are capable of interstellar travel?" "Currently 43, Collins replied honestly. The delegation exchanged glances, some making sounds that the translation devices interpreted as laughter. 43, repeated Zorthal. "The Confederation maintains over 12,000 capital ships, with member worlds contributing additional vessels to the unified fleet." Collins kept his expression neutral. "Impressive. Earth is still relatively new to deep space exploration." "Indeed." Zorthal's 4 hands clasped together. "Nevertheless, the Confederation's policy is to welcome all spacefaring civilizations, regardless of their development stage. We believe diversity strengthens our alliance." The meeting continued for several hours. The aliens asked questions about Earth's military capabilities, resource management, and government structure. With each answer, their initial politeness thinned, revealing an increasingly patronizing attitude. As they prepared to leave, Zorthal handed Collins a data crystal, "Our formal invitation to join the Confederation, along with the necessary protocols for integration. Your crewed vessels will need significant upgrades to meet our safety standards, but we can provide technical assistance." After the delegation departed, Collins gathered his senior officers in the conference room. "Well, that was humiliating," said Chief Engineer Sam Gordon, his face flushed with anger. "Did you hear how they mocked our propulsion systems?" Emma Watson nodded. "They called our weapons quaint and historical curiosities." Collins raised his hand for silence. "I know it's frustrating, but we've achieved our mission. First contact with an advanced galactic civilization. Their arrogance might be annoying, but it also presents an opportunity." "How so, sir?" asked Navigator Paul Mitchell. Collins smiled slightly. "They've severely underestimated us, and in my experience, that's always an advantage." Laura Bennett looked thoughtful. "They only saw the Defiant and our orbital platforms. They haven't seen what we can really do." "Exactly," Collins said, standing up. "Let them mock our tiny fleet for now. Set course for Earth. We have a lot to prepare for. 2 weeks after first contact, a Confederation delegation arrived on Earth to assess human military capability. Their massive shuttle descended through the atmosphere, landing at the United Nations Space Command Headquarters in Geneva. Commander John Miller stood at attention as the alien visitors disembarked. His job was to give them a tour of Earth's naval facilities, though the orders from High Command were clear. Show them something, but not everything. "Welcome to Earth," Miller said, extending his hand to Ambassador Zorthal. The ambassador regarded the gesture with mild curiosity before lightly touching Miller's palm with one of his 4 hands. "Thank you, Commander. We are eager to see your military installations to properly evaluate your potential contribution to Confederation security." Miller nodded politely. "This way, please. We'll start with our orbital shipyards." As they boarded a shuttle to low Earth orbit, Miller noticed the aliens whispering among themselves, their translation devices occasionally catching phrases like primitive propulsion and inefficient design. The orbital shipyard came into view, a sprawling structure where 3 new vessels were under construction. Miller felt a surge of pride at the sight, but the aliens seemed unimpressed. "These are your capital ships?" asked Lorvex, the Confederation's military attaché, pointing at the largest vessel. "Yes, the Brunswick-class cruiser. 400 meters in length, crew complement of 250, Miller explained. Lorvex made a sound that the translator interpreted as a chuckle. "Our standard patrol vessels are 3 times that size. Our capital ships exceed 2 kilometers in length." Chief Engineer Olivia Garcia, who had joined them for the technical portion of the tour, stepped forward. "Size isn't everything, sir. Our ships are designed for efficiency." Yes, Zorthal interrupted. "Your technological limitations necessitate different approaches. We understand." Garcia clenched her jaw but remained silent. The tour continued through various facilities. At each stop, the aliens' condescension grew more obvious. They examined human weapon systems with expressions that reminded Miller of adults humoring children. In the Tactical Command Center, Admiral Carl Winters demonstrated Earth's defense grid simulation. "Our planetary defense includes orbital platforms, atmospheric interceptors, and ground-based systems working in concert," Winters explained. Lorvex studied the display. "Interesting. Though against a determined modern attack, this would fall within hours. We've found it quite effective against asteroids and space debris," Winters replied evenly. "Yes, I imagine so," Lorvex said with a dismissive wave. Later, as they observed a training exercise where fighters performed complex maneuvers, Lieutenant Grace Foster provided commentary. "Our pilots train in atmospheric and vacuum conditions, focusing on precision and adaptability rather than raw firepower." "The vessels are so small," noted one of the aliens. "What purpose do they serve in actual combat?" "They're scout ships and interceptors," Foster explained. "Fast and maneuverable." "Like insects," another alien remarked. "Numerous but fragile." At the end of the day, the delegation gathered in a conference room for final assessments. Commander Miller watched as they typed notes into their devices, occasionally glancing at the humans with what seemed like pity. "We thank you for your hospitality," Zorthal said, rising to leave. "The Confederation welcomes Earth's participation in our collective security. Perhaps in time, with our guidance, your capabilities will improve." After the aliens departed, Admiral Winters called an emergency meeting with his senior staff. "Well, that went about as expected," he said, his expression grim. "They think we're harmless primitives with limited spacefaring potential." "Should we have shown them more?" asked Major Frank Wilson. Winters shook his head. "No, let them keep their assumptions. What did they actually see today?" "Old designs," Garcia answered. "Outdated weapon systems. Training exercises using our public doctrine, not our actual protocols." "Exactly," Winters said with a slight smile. "They saw what we wanted them to see. Let them mock our tiny fleet for now." Miller looked out the window at the night sky. They have no idea what humans are capable of when underestimated. 3 months after Earth joined the Galactic Confederation, an urgent message arrived at UN Space Command headquarters. Admiral William Carter read the transmission with growing concern. "They're under attack," he told his senior staff. "A species called the Vrikari has begun raiding Confederation border worlds." The briefing room's main screen displayed images of destruction, smoking cities, damaged ships, and desperate alien refugees. "The Confederation military is struggling," Carter continued. "According to this, the Vrikari use hit-and-run tactics that confuse the Confederation's standard battle formations." Major Lisa Nelson studied the tactical data. Their ships are unconventional, smaller than Confederation vessels, but packed with weaponry. They attack in swarms, overwhelm defenses, then vanish before the main response arrives. "Sounds familiar," remarked Captain Steve Jackson. "Like old Earth naval guerrilla tactics." Carter nodded. "My thoughts exactly. I've already contacted Ambassador Zorthal to offer our assistance." "What did he say?" asked Nelson. Carter's expression hardened. "He thanked Earth for our concern, but politely declined. Said their forces would handle it, and that our developing military should focus on home defense." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. "They're losing, aren't they?" Jackson finally asked. "Yes," Carter replied, "but they're too proud to admit it." Dr. Susan Mitchell, head of tactical analysis, entered the room carrying a tablet. "Admiral, I've completed my analysis of the Vrikari attack patterns. There's something you need to see." She projected a series of diagrams showing enemy movements. "The Vrikari are predictable if you look at the right variables. They always retreat along the path of least energy expenditure, regardless of tactical disadvantage. It suggests their ships have limited fuel reserves. A critical weakness," Carter said. "Have you shared this with the Confederation?" "I tried," Mitchell replied. "They dismissed it as simplistic analysis from an underdeveloped military tradition." Carter stood up, his decision made. "Prepare a relief force. I want our rapid response fleet ready in 48 hours. "Sir," Nelson cautioned, "the Confederation hasn't requested our help." "Sometimes you don't wait to be asked when your allies are in danger," Carter replied. "Besides, this is an opportunity to show what our tiny fleet can really do." Over the next 2 days, 25 human vessels prepared for deployment. Unlike the outdated ships shown to the Confederation delegation, these were Earth's true fighting force, compact, agile, and armed with technologies the aliens had never seen. On the bridge of the flagship Intrepid, Captain Daniel Morris reviewed the mission briefing. "The Vrikari are expected to hit the Centauri colony next," he told his crew. "It's a major Confederation settlement with over 3 million inhabitants. Their distress call went out 6 hours ago." "Confederation response time?" asked Lieutenant Commander Kate Johnson. "Their nearest battle group is 15 hours away," Morris answered. "We'll arrive in 9. "Will they welcome our help?" Johnson wondered. "Probably not at first," Morris admitted, "but they might change their minds when the shooting starts." In the ship's tactical center, Lieutenant George Winters studied Vrikari ship schematics. "Their design is interesting. All offense, minimal defense. They don't expect to get hit. Then we'll need to surprise them," Morris replied. As the human fleet prepared to jump, Admiral Carter delivered a final message from Earth. "This isn't just about saving Confederation lives," he told them. "It's about showing what humanity brings to the galaxy. Speed, adaptability, courage. They mocked our fleet's size without understanding our strength. Now they'll learn." Captain Morris looked at his crew, men and women trained to face impossible odds with determination and ingenuity. "Jump drives ready," reported Navigator Alice Cooper. "All ships, prepare for transition," Morris ordered. "Target, Centauri colony. Let's show the galaxy what humans can do." In perfect formation, Earth's fleet vanished into the darkness. heading toward a battle that would change the Confederation's view of humanity forever. The Centauri colony glowed blue-green against the darkness of space as Earth's fleet emerged from their jump. Captain Daniel Morris immediately saw the battle already in progress. 20 massive Valkyrie warships firing on the colony's orbital defenses, which were clearly failing. "Status report," Morris ordered, his voice calm despite the chaos visible on the main screen. "Colony defenses at 23% capacity," reported Sensor Officer Jason Abbott. "Confederation vessels in the area. Just 3 patrol ships, heavily damaged. Valkyrie forces haven't detected us yet." Morris nodded. "Open a channel to the Confederation command." The screen flickered to show a harried-looking alien officer. General Kivar's scales were pale with stress as he coordinated the colony's failing defense. "This is Captain Daniel Morris of the Earth Fleet. We're here to assist." The alien commander turned in surprise. "Earth Fleet, we did not request human assistance. Our battle group will arrive in." He paused as an explosion rocked his command center. "In 12 hours. The colony will fall in less than 2, Morris replied evenly. "We're in position to engage now." "This is not your battle," Kivar snapped. "The Confederation handles its own defense. Your presence is not sanctioned by—" "With respect, General," Morris interrupted, "there are 3 million civilians on that colony. We don't have time for protocol." Lieutenant Commander Kate Johnson approached Morris's chair. "Sir, Valkyrie forces have detected us. They're breaking off their attack on the colony. 5 warships moving to intercept. They've spotted our tiny fleet and think we're easy targets," Morris said with a grim smile. "Perfect." He turned back to the screen. "General, we're engaging the enemy. I suggest you reinforce your colony defenses while they're distracted." "This is outrageous," Kivar protested. "Your vessels are not equipped for—" Morris cut the transmission with a gesture. "Battle stations. All ships, execute formation Echo 7. The 25 human vessels spread out in what appeared to be a random pattern, but was actually a carefully designed defensive web. "Valkyrie ships in range in 40 seconds, Johnson reported. "Ready electronic countermeasures," Morris ordered. "Deploy meteor drones on my mark." The bridge crew worked with practiced efficiency. Unlike the Confederation's rigid command structure, human ships operated with flexible protocols developed through centuries of naval tradition. "Sir," Communications Officer Diane Miller called out, "General Kivar is demanding to know our battle plan. He wants to coordinate our vessels with his remaining forces." "Tell him we'll handle the attacking force," Morris replied. "His ships should focus on protecting the colony." The first Valkyrie vessels opened fire, expecting to obliterate the small human ships. Instead, their energy weapons passed through empty space as the Earth vessels executed precise, evasive maneuvers. "Return fire," Morris ordered. "Target propulsion systems only." Human weapons struck with surprising accuracy, damaging 2 Valkyrie ships. The alien vessels, accustomed to fighting the larger Confederation ships, struggled to track the smaller, faster human craft. "They're confused by our movement patterns," Johnson observed. "Their targeting systems are designed for larger vessels." "Good," Morris said. "Launch fighter squadrons. Tell Commander Andy Phillips to focus on their weapon emplacements." Smaller craft poured from the human ships, swarming toward the massive Valkyrie vessels like angry bees. On the Confederation command ship, General Kivar watched in disbelief. "What are they doing?" he demanded. "Those tiny fighters will be destroyed instantly." But the human fighters darted between Valkyrie energy beams with impossible agility, delivering precise strikes against critical systems. "Sir," Johnson reported, "General Kivar is hailing us again." "Put him through," Morris said, never taking his eyes off the tactical display. "Your tactics are unorthodox," the alien commander admitted. Perhaps there is merit in your approach." "Thank you, General," Morris replied. "Now, with your permission, we'd like to try something unconventional." Kivar hesitated, then nodded. "Proceed, Captain." The colony's survival takes priority over protocol. Morris turned to his crew. All ships, prepare for Operation Hornet's Nest. Lieutenant Commander Johnson, you have tactical control. Johnson stepped forward, her expression determined. Yes, sir. All ships acknowledge. Executing now. As both allies and enemies watched, Earth's tiny fleet began a maneuver that would change space warfare forever. The battle unfolded in ways the Confederation had never witnessed. Human ships darted between massive Vakari vessels with remarkable agility, their movements precise and unpredictable. The tiny fleet that had once been mocked now demonstrated exactly why their size was an advantage. Squadron 2, execute pattern Delta. Lieutenant Patricia Rivera ordered. Her 6 ships responded instantly, breaking formation and reforming in a complex web that confused Vakari targeting systems. On the bridge of the Confederation command ship, General Kavar watched in stunned silence as human vessels performed maneuvers his larger ships couldn't hope to match. How are they moving like that? He demanded. Those turns should tear their hulls apart. A human liaison officer, Major Ben Foster, stood nearby. Inertial dampening fields. We developed them for deep space mining operations in high-gravity environments. Mining technology, Kavar said incredulously. Foster nodded. Humans adapt civilian tech for military use all the time. It's kind of our thing. Aboard the Intrepid, engineer Ryan Baker monitored the revolutionary displacement drive his team had installed on all Earth vessels. Micro-jump ready on your command, Captain, he reported. Captain Morris nodded. Execute. In an instant, the Intrepid vanished from its position and reappeared behind a Vakari command ship. The alien vessel had no time to react before precision strikes disabled its engines and weapons. What was that? General Kavar demanded, watching the impossible maneuver. Displacement drive, Foster explained. Short-range jump capability that works within a battle zone. That's impossible, Kavar stuttered. Jump drives require massive energy calculations. They can't be used in tactical combat. Foster smiled. Ours can. Throughout the battlefield, human tactics continued to baffle both their allies and enemies. Lieutenant Rivera's squadron slipped through gaps in Vakari formations that the aliens had never bothered to defend, believing no ship could navigate such tight spaces. Target their port-side weapon clusters, Rivera instructed her pilots. 3-second bursts, then vector away. Her squadron executed perfect attack runs, striking vulnerable points the much larger Confederation ships couldn't have approached. In another sector, Lieutenant Commander Kyle Edwards deployed specialized electronic warfare systems. His vessel, though small, broadcast signals that confused Vakari targeting computers, making them register phantom ships where none existed. Electronic countermeasures at full spread, Edwards reported. Vakari targeting efficiency down 60%. The Confederation observers were equally bewildered by these tactics. Their own electronic warfare relied on massive arrays and dedicated vessels. The humans had somehow miniaturized this technology to fit on ships a fraction of the size. Captain Morris coordinated the overall battle from the Intrepid. All units, execute Operation Hornet's Nest. 20 human ships converged on the Vakari flagship from different vectors, moving so fast they appeared as streaks on sensor displays. They darted in and out of the flagship's defensive envelope, striking with surgical precision before the larger vessel could bring its weapons to bear. "This is insanity," muttered a Confederation officer watching the display. "They're using their small size as a weapon." Small size, high maneuverability, unexpected technologies. General Kavar said slowly, understanding dawning. "We dismissed them because their ships weren't massive like ours." On the main view screen, human vessels continued their relentless assault. Where Confederation tactics relied on overwhelming firepower from distance, humans fought up close, exploiting weaknesses only small ships could target. A Vakari cruiser exploded as Lieutenant Rivera's squadron completed another attack run. 3 more enemy vessels broke formation. attempting to retreat. "The Vrikari are falling back," reported Communications Officer Diane Miller. "Their command structure is breaking down." Captain Morris allowed himself a small smile. "Continue pursuit. Don't let them regroup." General Kivar stared at the battle display, his previous assumptions about human military capability completely shattered. The tiny fleet wasn't just holding its own, it was winning. The Vrikari fleet scattered into retreat, their once fearsome formation reduced to panicked flight. Captain Morris stood on the bridge of the Intrepid, watching as the enemy ships jumped to light speed, abandoning their invasion of the Centaur colony. "Confirm all enemy vessels have left the system," he ordered. Lieutenant Kim nodded. "Confirmed, sir. All Vrikari ships have retreated. We're tracking their jump signatures heading toward their territory." A cheer erupted across the bridge, quickly silenced by Morris' raised hand. "Good work, everyone. Damage reports from all ships." "Minor hull breaches on the Valiant and Dauntless," reported Lieutenant Commander Johnson. 3 injured crew members, no fatalities. All other vessels report minimal damage." Morris nodded, relief evident in his expression. "Send medical teams to assist the wounded. Then open a channel to the Confederation command ship." On the main screen, General Kivar appeared, his expression unreadable. "Captain Morris, the Confederation acknowledges your intervention." "Happy to help, General," Morris replied evenly. "The colony is secure. Vrikari forces are in full retreat." Kivar seemed to struggle with his next words. "Your tactics were unconventional but effective. The Confederation extends its gratitude." "Thank you, General. We'll begin patrol patterns to ensure they don't return." The Confederation officer hesitated. "If I may ask, is this truly the extent of Earth's military capability? These few vessels?" Captain Morris allowed himself a small smile. "No, General. This is approximately 15% of our active deep space fleet." The alien's eyes widened. 15%. But Ambassador Zorthal reported. "The ambassador saw what we chose to show him," Morris interrupted. "Earth has learned through its history that revealing your full strength isn't always wise." Later that day, Morris welcomed a Confederation delegation aboard the Intrepid. General Kivar was accompanied by 3 military advisors and 2 civilian officials from the colony. "Your ship is surprisingly advanced," Kivar admitted as they toured the bridge. "Nothing like the vessels we observed during our assessment." Science Officer Eric Powell nodded. "Those were older models we keep for training purposes." One of the military advisors studied the tactical displays. "Your battle formations resembled nothing in Confederation doctrine. We adapted them from Earth's naval history," Powell explained. "For thousands of years, humans fought wars on our oceans. We learned that smaller, faster ships could defeat larger vessels through superior tactics and maneuverability." "But space isn't an ocean," the advisor argued. "True," Powell conceded, "but many principles transfer, especially when fighting enemies who think size equals strength." In the conference room, Captain Morris presented data on the Vrikari retreat patterns, confirming Dr. Mitchell's theory about their fuel limitations. "They always withdraw along these predictable vectors," he explained. "It's a critical vulnerability we can exploit in future engagements." General Kivar studied the information. "Our analysts missed this pattern entirely." "Sometimes a fresh perspective helps," Morris replied diplomatically. As the meeting concluded, one of the colony officials stepped forward. "My people owe you our lives, Captain. Without your intervention, our world would have fallen." Morris nodded respectfully. "That's why Earth joined the Confederation, to be part of something greater than ourselves, to help when we can." After the delegation departed, Morris received a priority communication from Admiral Carter. "Well done, Captain," Carter said. "The Confederation Council has formally requested military cooperation. They want to learn our tactics and training methods." "And our actual capabilities?" Morris asked. Carter smiled. "They're beginning to understand. Their military command has requested a complete reassessment of Earth's contribution to Confederation security. And Ambassador Zorthal. Surprisingly quiet, Carter replied. But I understand he's been reassigned to a different diplomatic post. Morris looked out at the stars, where his tiny fleet maintained protective positions around the colony. They underestimated us because of our size, a mistake humans have seen many times throughout history. A mistake they won't make again, Carter agreed. Prepare your ships to receive Confederation officers for joint training exercises. It's time they learned what humans can really do. 1 month after the battle at Centauri Colony, Earth's status within the Galactic Confederation had transformed completely. The Joint Human Confederation Command Center now operated from Geneva, with officers from both sides working together to coordinate defense against the ongoing Valkyrie threat. Admiral Nancy Wilson walked through the command center, nodding at both human and alien personnel. As the highest-ranking human officer in the Joint Command, she had spent weeks integrating Earth's tactical doctrines into Confederation strategy. "Admiral, the new designs are ready for your approval," said Commander Alex Jenkins, handing her a tablet. Wilson reviewed the schematics with approval. The Confederation had begun building smaller, more agile vessels based on human designs, ships that prioritized maneuverability and tactical flexibility over sheer size. "These look good," she said. "How are the Confederation engineers adapting to the changes?" "Better than expected," Jenkins replied. "They were skeptical at first, but after seeing our ships in action, they're eager to learn. Their materials technology is actually improving our designs." In the Tactical Training Center, Captain Morris supervised a mixed group of human and alien officers running battle simulations. No, he said, stopping the exercise. "Your formation is still too rigid. Against Valkyrie swarm tactics, you need to maintain flexibility." A Confederation officer named Thrix adjusted the simulation parameters. "Like this, Captain." "Better," Morris nodded. "Remember, unpredictability is your advantage. If the enemy can predict your movements, they control the battlefield." Later that day, Admiral Wilson met with the Confederation High Command to discuss the upcoming offensive against the Valkyrie homeworld. The alien leaders, once dismissive of human military expertise, now listened attentively as she outlined the battle plan. "Our intelligence suggests the Valkyrie are consolidating their forces for a final stand," Wilson explained. "They don't expect us to attack directly." "A frontal assault would be suicide," said Fleet Commander Draz. "Their home system defenses are formidable." Wilson smiled. "Which is why we won't attack frontally. Earth's fleet will lead multiple small unit insertions here, and here." She pointed to seemingly random points on the star chart. "While your capital ships engage their main fleet, our displacement drive-equipped vessels will jump behind their lines and disrupt their command structure." "A classic pincer movement," observed Draz with newfound respect. "Adapted for three-dimensional space warfare." On the day of the offensive, Earth's fleet gathered alongside the massive Confederation armada. The contrast was striking. Enormous alien dreadnoughts alongside the compact, sleek human vessels. "All ships report ready, Admiral," said Communications Officer Alan Murray. Wilson nodded. "Signal the fleet. Operation Turning Point is a go." The combined fleet moved toward Valkyrie space, no longer separated by species or shipbuilding philosophy, but unified in purpose and strategy. In the final battle, the once mocked, tiny fleet led the charge, demonstrating the tactics that had changed the Confederation's understanding of space warfare. Human ships performed precision micro-jumps that confounded Valkyrie defenses, while Confederation vessels provided devastating firepower once openings were created. When the Valkyrie leadership finally surrendered, they did so to a joint delegation that included both Admiral Wilson and Fleet Commander Draz. "The war is over," Wilson announced to the combined fleet. "The Valkyrie have accepted our terms." The celebration that followed bridged species and cultures. On the observation deck of the Confederation flagship, Wilson stood with the alien leaders, watching their united fleet. If you had told me 3 months ago that humans would leave us to victory, I would have dismissed it as impossible, admitted High Commander Vexlar. Underestimating others is a dangerous mistake, Wilson replied. One that nearly cost the Confederation everything. A lesson we won't forget. Vexlar promised. Earth is now recognized as a full military partner, not a junior member. Your people have earned their place among the stars. As Wilson looked out at the fleet, the massive Confederation ships now flying alongside the tiny fleet of Earth, she thought about how far they had come. The aliens had mocked human ships for their size, never understanding that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in building bigger vessels, but in thinking differently. The humans had transformed the balance of power in the galaxy forever, proving that sometimes the smallest ships could make the biggest difference.